The Story of Steer, Montana, as told by Pat Murphy.
Mr. Goose Homestead, the place where this steer was born and raised, actually joined my folks' place where I was born and raised. This place is 12 miles east of Baker, 1 mile this side of the North Dakota state line, and just on the north side of U.S. Highway number 12. So we were only about a mile apart. I don't know too much about Jack's younger years. He homesteaded here in about 1911 on 320 acres and later bought a section of railroad line. He had been a jockey and a gambler in his younger days. I remember him talking about some of his horse races and some of his gambling deals. He was a bachelor, lived in a one-room homestead shack, 12 by 16 feet in size, and was also a good cook. When he would come to our place to visit, he would ask my mother if he could prepare the meal. She would gladly say yes and provide all the ingredients that he needed, meat, vegetables, seasoning, everything. He would prepare his famous mulligan stew. It was really good. Along with what little farming Jack had to do to prove up on his homestead, he also had 5 or 6 very pretty roan Belgian draft mares. He crossed these mares with a fairly large Missouri Jack and produced mules, which he later sold for income. Jack's mule project was not accepted too well by some of his farming neighbors and ranchers of the area, because this Jack that he was using in his cross-breeding program did not always stay in its own pasture. My dad always liked mules. He said after you get to know them, get their attention by whatever means is necessary and get them broke. They were very good draft animals. Dad broke quite a few of these mules for Mr. Goose, used them for 1 or 2 years in his farming operation, and then they were sold. We were harvesting one fall. Dad had a neighbor working for us. He was driving one real good mule and a large horse as a team on a header box. This man lived about 3 miles from our place, would ride back and forth on saddle. This gentleman, incidentally, was from the state of Missouri, which was famous for its mules. One night, one of Dad's header horses became sick with a colic, and he needed this odd horse to fill in his team. So he sent me out to bring in a younger mule to take his place. When this man walked into the barn that morning, he looked up and down the stalls, asked Dad which team was his. Dad said that team of mules down on the end of his line was his. He immediately bristled up and said, I didn't say anything about driving one mule, but I'll be damned if I'm going to drive 2. He got on his saddle horse and headed home. Needless to say, Dad was a little short-handed. During the Prohibition era, rumor had it that Jack also had a source of supplemental income hidden back in the hills. Rumor also had it that he fed the mash from this bootleg stills of those 3 large steers to maintain their unusual size. I believe the first rumor was undoubtedly true, but I don't think the second rumor was. Jack also had a small herd of real good quality shorthorn cows. The 3 steers, Bulgy, Montana, and Spot, that you can see the pictures of down the lower portion of the showcase, were all sons of the same roan cow whose picture is also there. But they were sired by 3 different bulls. The oldest one, Bulgy, with the white face, was sired by a white-faced Hereford bull. The one you were looking at, Steer, Montana, was sired by a roan shorthorn bull that my dad had. And the youngest one, Spot, was sired by a spotted shorthorn bull that Jack owned. I am convinced the unusual size of these 3 steers had to be attributed to a certain gene that this cow possessed. She had several other calves that were very normal in size. When it became apparent that the steer Bulgy was going to be unusually large, Jack decided to take him on a show circuit to county fairs, carnivals, rodeos, or other large gatherings where people would pay to see him. He got a large reel truck, loaded his calliope for the music for his show, large tent, ticket booth, feed for the steer, and all the other supplies that he would need. He had a low trailer made, which was large enough for the steer to lay down in, and was also easy for him to load and unload. He provided a special feed ration of mixed hay and grain and all the mineral and protein supplements needed for a maintenance ration. These steers had very good appetites and a large food capacity. Jack would head south from here and show as many places as he could clear to Texas. He would stay on the show circuit south during the winter months, then head back north through the central states in the spring, and try to be in this area for the county fairs in the fall. Bulgy's tour of the circuits only lasted about 3 years. The disease TB, tuberculosis, was quite prevalent in cattle at that time. The government had a TB eradication program on at that time, and any animals that tested positive to the disease had to be disposed of, and the owner was given a small compensation for his loss. Bulgy was very unfortunate. He tested positive and had to be destroyed. By this time, it was apparent that this steer Montana was going to be larger than Bulgy, so he started his tour of the show circuit. His official weight was 3,980 pounds. However, he was weighed unofficially several times on grain elevator scales and exceeded the 2-ton mark. In the early 30s, during a depression when jobs were very hard to get, my older brother Harry signed on as the official barker and ticket taker for the show. They showed at the World's Fair in Chicago in 1934. Harry just worked that one season. He said that was enough of the carnival show business for him. However, he did get to see the World's Fair. One interesting note, Jack had came back home just prior to our Fallon County Fair. Took his big steer out to the pasture and turned him loose with the other cattle for some much-needed exercise. I just happened to be riding through the pasture that day and had the opportunity to watch this huge animal try to romp and play with the calves that was there. It was really a pleasurable sight. After 7 or 8 years on the show circuit and unknown thousands of miles of travel, the old boy's legs just gave out. He got to where he could hardly get up. Jack brought him home, put him in his own barn. Finally, he could not get up, and he died there in 1938. During the severe drought and depression years of the 30s, when there was no grass or feed available in this area, Jack lost the railroad section and was forced to disperse of all of his cattle. Cattle prices were low. The government was buying cattle with a maximum of $20 per head on mature cows and bulls, and lesser amounts for younger cattle down to $2.50 per calf, which they were destroying. One local cattle buyer here purchased 2 carloads of large bulls for $21 a head, shipped them to Spokane, Washington to a packing plant, and they did not bring enough money to cover his cost plus freight. He lost money on the deal. I helped trail Jack's cows in the 3rd steer spot, the town where they were sold. Jack decided to have this steer Montana mounted as you see him now. I had the opportunity to help skin him. I did not get to use the knife because this was a job for a professional butcher. We had to set up a tripod in the barn where he died and use a hoist to hold his legs up and roll him over just to get the hide off. It was no simple task, and this was mostly my job. The fact that he was down so long before he died is the reason there was no hair on his front knee. The hide was sent to Nebraska where it was tanned and mounted. The next spring, I also helped clean and shellac the bones from the carcass, which had been pretty well cleaned by coyotes and other rodents during the winter. The local artisan then mounted the skeleton on the framework, had it and the mounted animal were placed side by side in a trailer. Jack headed back on the show circuit. However, this exhibit did not turn out very well as the public was not very willing to pay money just to see a dead animal and a skeleton. Jack then sold his homestead to the government in 1940 for $3.50 an acre, took his exhibit to Billings, Montana, and placed it in a place called Wonderland Park. It's on the Laurel Road. He reverted back to dealing cards and gambling halls in Billings. Mr. Goose died in Billings. Wonderland Park was disbanded, and the steer disappeared. Our special thanks and appreciation goes out to a local businessman, Bernie Heiser, finally traced the steer's whereabouts. He found him in a warehouse in Billings, purchased him, and brought him back to Baker. He kept it on display uptown for several years and then loaned it to the museum for display. I hope you will appreciate and support our museum and the dedication and hard work of all the donors of the memorabilia that you're about to see, the hard-working members of the Historical Society, dedicated work of the curator, and the efficiency of the tour guide. I sincerely hope you enjoy the rest of your tour. Thank you.